And we're going to dig in with Leah today into, does your website convert? And, this is really related to whether or not your website is accomplishing your goals and helping you really grow your business. So thanks so much for being here.
All right, so let's dig in. Does your website convert, and what does that mean anyway? I know in digital marketing talk, we often are throwing around conversion and funnels and all of those types of words, but let's dig into what that really means for you and how understanding these concepts can help you level up your website and your business. So I'm Leah Quintal, the Director of SEO and Content Strategy at JB Media Group, and I'm super excited to talk to you all about this. So please ask questions along the way and we'll get to them at the end. So first, what is website conversion? So website conversion really is the things that you want people to do on your website, and conversion optimization is the process of getting people to do what you want them to do. So with this picture, I'm not the biggest fan of this image because obviously this little girl is not really happy. We're trying to make her do what we want, but really conversion optimization, it shouldn't be so obvious. It should be more like this slide. So this page really knows me. You convert me. It should be pretty intuitive, and when you're doing it well, you're basically not making anyone do anything. You're creating a series of steps and actions that feel intuitive and that your users feel good about participating in. And why do we care about this? Why do we care about conversions and conversion optimizations? That is really because it's much easier to double your business by doubling your conversion rate than by doubling your traffic. We spend a lot of time and energy figuring out how to drive more traffic to your website through search engine optimization or Facebook advertising or distributing content through your email. All of that, the purpose is to drive traffic back to your website. But what is often left out is considering, is your website doing what it needs to do? Because if it's not, you can drive traffic there all day long, but it's not actually accomplishing any of your objectives for your business. So that's why we want to really dig into, is your site converting? What does that mean? How do we evaluate that? And how do we improve it? So there are many different types of website conversions. It's all the different actions someone can take on your website. So that might be making a purchase, which if you're an e-commerce platform, that's usually what everyone jumps out right away. You want someone to buy something. But there's also filling out a contact form, downloading a guide or resource, registering for a webinar like today. That is a conversion for our site if you registered for the webinar. Signing up for a newsletter, requesting a demo. There are many, many different types of conversions. And what we want to consider is, where do those conversions exist within the stages of your sales funnel? So again, I use e-commerce as an example because a lot of times the most obvious thing is someone says, the purpose of my website is for someone to buy something. Well, part of what you want to do when you're looking at your sales funnel and your conversion funnel and what are the different conversions that can take place on your website is to reverse engineer that purchase, or if it's registering for a webinar or downloading a guide or making a phone call, what are all the different actions that need to take place on your site before someone's willing to do that? So a lot of times you have to demonstrate your expertise. You have to prove to someone that you're authoritative or trustworthy. So for example, for JB Media, you might read some of our blogs and sign up for our email list, and then that would be signing up for our email list as a conversion at the top of the funnel, and then later registering for one of our webinars might be further on down. But before you get to that point, we have to prove to you our expertise in order for you to make it to that conversion point. So at each different phase here, we have brand awareness, lead generation, and then client nurturing. And each of those will have its own set of conversions that you'll want to be tracking. So how do we improve it? I'm going to give you some quick tips that you can use after today to look at your website. And I'm all about you being able to have some action steps after this to make big changes to make big impact through small changes on your site. So I'm going to carry you through with an example using Asheville Bee Charmer. They are a honey store in downtown Asheville that they have an online store now, and they make amazing honey. I just got a gift set for myself for the holidays, and I highly recommend the vanilla bean honey. It's fantastic. So one of their challenges has been to move from just being an in-person brick and mortar store to having an online presence. So first, when you're looking at your website and you're thinking, how can I improve conversions? You want to look at what's already working and make it work better. So what does that look like? Oftentimes I start by looking at what are your top landing pages in Google Analytics. Your landing pages are the first pages on your site through which a visitor arrives. So this is part of the philosophy of taking what's working well and make it work better and better for you, and match it with what you want to convert. So when I first looked at Asheville Bee Charmer's Google Analytics and their landing pages, I see that their top landing page isn't even their home page, it's this blog post. And here in Analytics, we see that over 60% of all traffic to their website arrives on this particular landing page. So if we're looking at how to improve conversions, this page really, really stands out since it attracts so many visitors to the site, which means small improvements to this page could lead to long-term impacts for their bottom line. So what we do then is you look at your top landing pages and then just open them up and review them. Just give it a fresh look and say, what do I see when I'm looking at this page? So this is the particular post a few months ago, pre-optimization, and what it looked like. So we see, it's a lot of copy. We see the shop online on the right-hand side, but it doesn't look particularly engaging to me. I also have no idea that I'm really if I'm arriving on this page, it's not clear to me that I'm on a store page or that this is anything more than an educational post. So now when we look at this page, we want to step out and consider, what are the goals of this page? What can this page do for us other than just being some educational content for those who are interested in learning about top honeys in the world on the internet? So the first thing would be a newsletter sign up. This is oftentimes a first conversion goal in a funnel. And that is because if someone doesn't know who we are yet, they're not going to be prepared to make a purchase. They're not even looking to purchase honey. They're just looking for information about it. So the conversion that we might look at for this page would be, how do we get people who are interested in learning more about honey to then sign up for our newsletter so that we can kind of market to them later? And the second thing, of course, maybe they'll purchase something. That would be great, but that wouldn't be the conversion that we'd count on most, because it's not realistic for where this is the brand awareness stage. So here it is in a quick conversion funnel. So we're building brand awareness. It could be someone searching for what is the best honey in the world. And then our conversion point for this brand awareness stage is the trigger for them expressing interest in our brand, which might be honey store, email sign up. Maybe I'll get some discount codes. I want to remember this store later during the holidays. And then the second conversion would be, of course, a purchase. So maybe down the road when it's time for Mother's Day, we send them an email or the coupon code, and that previous person who hadn't been aware we existed is now engaged. They see it's Mother's Day. They're going to buy some honey. They're going to make mom happy. And that's how it works. So what we did was, after we looked at this page, we considered, how do we get someone to better sign up for the email? So the previous version of the page didn't have an email sign up on it. So We worked with Status for a design and development company to redo the template for the page, to work on some graphics and other things, including adding this email sign up on the bottom left-hand corner. Keep up with the buzz. So that was a good step since we didn't have that. We also see it's above the fold, which is fantastic. We also made the post more engaging, created better imagery. Beyond that, we added graphic ads within the post to direct users to the store. So these are ads that their designer created to drive traffic from that blog post into the store. And here we also added another pop-up that was triggered after a visitor had scrolled through a certain part of the page that is a stronger request for an email. That's on the right-hand side here. And on the left-hand side, you can see how that graphic call to action with directing traffic to the store fits in within the post. All of this is to say that design is everything. When we're talking about conversions, it's got to look good and it's got to feel good for your end user. And so one way you can start gathering data on whether or not the design on your site is effective or if people are doing what you want them to do is by gathering data using a heat map. Here we see on the left, this is the results of a heat map tool called Hotjar. And you can do a free trial, and essentially what it does is record the actions of the first 1,000 visitors to a page of your site, and it creates different versions of this map where you can see where people are clicking, how far they're scrolling, how are they moving, and then you can see it differently between desktop and mobile. It is awesome. It's so helpful, especially if you're a more visual person and you're more comfortable looking at this type of data gathering rather than within analytics. So that's a great way of evaluating if your site is designed visually for conversion. So how do we actually know if it's converting? In order to do this, this is an essential tip. You have to make sure that your site conversion steps are actually goals within analytics. So every action that you want someone to take on your site, you are tracking that. So here's a screen grab from analytics. We're in the admin section, and you'll see there's this area called goals. And Google Analytics provides you with a great deal of templates, so I recommend that after the webinar today, if you haven't before, to get into your analytics account and just play around with goals. Take a look at the templates that Google provides. Almost everybody can use a Contact Us Google Analytics goal, but there's also an e-commerce setting that you can connect to any e-commerce store to look at purchases. And having these set up is really important for evaluating conversion success over time. That way, when you start making changes to your site, you can see with data in analytics the change that it's having. So here we see with Asheville Bee Charmer, once we added tracking and goals, we can see how many newsletter signups that post we've optimized is now earning. And we can look at that over time. So the results for Asheville Bee Charmer, once we optimized that page and inserted those different calls to action, that post now consistently generates email signups, which is important. Prior to the optimization work, the post did not generate any sales or email signups. So when that's accounting for 60% of your site traffic, that's a huge opportunity to improve that. So now, at this point, it's only been adjusted for a little over a month, and it's now accounting for almost 4% of online sales. And that will continue to grow, and over time, it'll amass like a great deal of sales. So it's super exciting. We are really excited about the simple changes that we made that resulted in huge conversion improvement. Finally, after you identify what are the actions that you want someone to take on your site and how they fit into your funnel, make it as simple as possible for site visitors to accomplish those important actions. And again, you can continue to track that using heat map tools. All right, that is the quick and dirty on conversion optimization. And I think we have a couple minutes if anyone has questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to just open up for anyone who's on the call. I know, again, we're having a tiny little bit of technical issues with a handful of people. So if you're one of those people, I apologize. And Jenna is definitely in the chat taking some information about the problems. But for the rest of you, if you've got any questions about conversions, about your own website, please feel free to chat them in, and we can have Leah go ahead and talk about some of those. And we'll just give you guys a minute, because I know sometimes typing things in can take a minute. But in the meantime, Justin, do you want to get pulled up and switched out?
Yeah.
Awesome. As I say, if you just want to hop back over there, then they should still be able to hear you. But thank you so much for that, Leah. I really appreciate that. I think what you're talking about is really key, for everybody to be thinking about as they head into 2018. So, Ernie, I see your question. Do you look at conversion optimization stats on Google Analytics? And Google Analytics is what we were just talking about in the presentation. Is there anything else that you guys use right now?
Yeah, a lot of times if you're conversion is often improved through, like I said, design, and there are different, for example, for WordPress, there are a lot of different plugins that you can use on your sites for example, if the goal is email sign up for a page, there are different plugins that you can use to create time-triggered or scroll-triggered pop-ups to collect those emails. And a lot of times those tools will have their own tracking. I like, when possible, to connect everything to analytics. And if you get that tracking set up before you start optimizing things, then you'll have a really clear before and after picture of a page or a post pre and post optimization and how that conversion rate has changed.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to add, Ernie, is that, in Google Analytics, there's that whole section called conversions. And depending on, the level of technical integration that you've done with Google Analytics, you can start to dig more deeply into a lot of the conversion sort of information that they place there. The simplest thing that most people can do with Google Analytics is use the goals that Leah talked about. And when you use the goals, they don't typically have too much suggestions on how to optimize any of the conversions. They do have a little bit more of that, I believe, inside of the e-commerce tracking, where you get more information about that. So I just want to make sure we answered your question. If you're talking about something very specific with conversion optimization in Google Analytics, or if you are talking about just in general. And Google is also launching new tools all the time to help test out conversion. So I know that inside of the G Suite for Business and inside of Google Analytics itself, there's, a lot of different things that they're adding to help people really understand how their pages are performing, like Leah described.